country intentionally sinks airplane into the ocean for one clever purpose. Picture an airplane sitting at the bottom of the ocean floor, wings covered in rust, its cavernous insides a new home for fish to swim through. That sight can only mean one thing: some degree of tragedy. But not always. It's not every day, after all, that people intentionally choose to sink an airplane. However, this is exactly what one country pulled off as part of a genius scheme that no one could ever have predicted. Although it wasn't the most orthodox decision, the complex operation still has people applauding, even if they're just overcome with pure awe. The Kingdom of Bahrain is an archipelago country located in the Persian Gulf. Attached by bridge to Saudi Arabia and only a short trip away from Qatar, Bahrain has an interesting history and perhaps an even more interesting present. Despite its travails, Bahrain remains a beautiful urban paradise on the water. Because of its proximity to Saudi Arabia, many flock there for the less stringent rules, including the allowance of alcohol in nightclubs. Today, the nation of almost 1.5 million people is wholly independent. For many decades, beginning in the late 1800s, it was a British protectorate with limited sovereignty over its own rules and policies. Back then, pearls were Bahrain's most valuable commodity. The majority of the country's men were once employed in this industry. Not only were the pearls bountiful, they were of the highest quality around. Unfortunately, scarcity measures during the Great Depression of the 1930s put an end to the economic benefits of these graceful wares. The country needed to find something else to depend on. In 1931, they struck gold. Well, actually, they struck oil. The discovery of petroleum led to an entire overhaul of the Bahraini economy. However, no finite resource can be relied upon forever, so soon Bahrain had to craft another money-making scheme. 40 years later, in 1971, Bahrain finally achieved independence. Ever since then, the country's been trying to improve its economy through tourism, an effort that's created some pretty unusual circumstances. This brings us to the extremely drastic step the kingdom took in order to get tourists to flock there. It dropped a 70-meter-long Boeing 747 into the ocean, and then stepped back to see what would happen. The first thing that happened was the country broke a pretty insane record. Bahrain is now responsible for having dropped the largest intentionally sunken aircraft ever placed into the ocean. However, there was more to its scheme than just that record. The dropping of the plane was only the first step in a much larger plan to achieve greatness. Once government officials got this master plan in their heads, they just couldn't focus on anything else. The mission needed to be completed. The Kingdom of Bahrain set out to create the largest underwater amusement park in existence. The sunken plane would serve as the main attraction, given its hulking mass, but it was far from the only oddity curious visitors could peruse. There would also be an entire model of a pearl merchant's house, an ode to the economy of days gone by. We can only imagine that these submerged structures will be as eerie to swim through as they are beautiful. This grand undertaking wasn't just meant to boost tourism and aid the growing economy, however. The creation of this underwater theme park serves a much more noble purpose. The park, known as Dive Bahrain, will help to protect the country's natural environment and rich resources by providing a habitat wherein biodiversity will be able to flourish. The plane, the merchant's house replica, and other structures will all serve as artificial coral reefs, structures that are becoming increasingly common as environmental issues threaten the existence of naturally occurring reefs. Heightening levels of coastal development, growing amounts of sediment in the water, and increasing temperatures have coalesced to create the perfect storm of factors that have killed off much of Bahrain's and the world's coral reefs. Because of this dearth, one might think that the introduction of the artificial reefs is a foolproof plan. However, some experts have taken issue with the plane, particularly due to the composition of its materials. Professor Adriana Humanes states, "The materials can be subject to corrosion, passing heavy metals into the seawater and affecting the surrounding marine organisms. And that loss of structural integrity could potentially affect marine life living in the area or becoming a safety threat to visiting divers." Authorities have ostensibly looked into these concerns. Experienced divers have already toured the site multiple times, attempting to ensure that it remains safe for expert and more casual divers alike. This monumental, record-breaking step that the Kingdom of Bahrain has taken will certainly go down in the history books. They knew from past examples that incredible efforts can help restore the environment.